Hello traders and investors, I'm LA Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. Take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective. Each day asking ourselves what happened today, what does it tell us about the coming ones. Do a show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursdays, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It's under channel LA Little. You know, when we say we look at the markets, we're looking at supply and demand on the charts, folks. It's really where it's at, right? It's all about supply and demand. Doesn't always work. Nothing always works. You just try to put the probabilities in your favor. The key in any game of chance, and this is a game of chance, you know, you're not going to have 100% probability on anything you ever do, and you're certainly not going to have that in the market. What you're trying to do is put the most money at work when you have the best opportunity for success and the highest ratio of payout. That's what it's all about. Whether you're buying gold or you're buying some individual stock, whatever it is that you're doing, right, that's what you're trying to do. Because if you do that and you have the most money on the biggest winner, you know, then you're going to make out okay. I mean, that's what it's about, right? So you got to find supply and demand on charts. That makes sense. Let's look at the numbers here. So if we look across the board, right, Apple the last 2 or 3 days has been holding this market up. 23 points today on the NDX, and NASDAQ also benefits, so 0.5% higher, and you were red elsewhere. So that was really what was happening there. Why were you red elsewhere? Well, primarily because of oil. Oil got hit again. It's a second or third time now it got spanked. That pushes the indexes down, in particular the Russell, you know, gets hit as a result of that. You also get some problems in bank shares as a result of that, and then in general, your energy sector and so forth. Dollar was a little bit weaker today. We have Bank of England tomorrow. The expectation is they're not going to do anything. If they do something, that will be a surprise and that will have some effect. Odds are it won't. The big news will be next week. And it's probably not what you think it is. It's not so much the Fed. It's probably the Bank of Japan. And maybe as we get closer, we'll talk about that some. As far as Bank of Japan, let's look at the Nikkei, 16,479, down 134.81. That's just getting started tonight, down on the evening. Maybe we'll try to take a look at that chart. Europe looks like it traded a little bit lighter. I think these guys actually still look pretty good. Asia is the one that's having a tough time. Big question has been, you know, last night I left you with 2 ideas, things to watch. One was the bonds and was the small caps, right? That's where the action is. This really needs to find some footing. As the bonds continue to move down, the yields move up. That's making this market nervous. It's not the Fed, it's the bonds that's making the market nervous. Now, maybe it's because of the Fed that the bond market is getting nervous, but not the Fed, but central bankers in general. But it's really the bonds that are shaking things up and moving things around. Gold, silver up on the week, on the day. I think that's the first day in about 4 days. They got a little pop to the upside. Let's take a look at the markets. Let's walk through these. I was out most of the day, so it's going to be new to me as well. So let's see what they did. 21.1990 is a low. That low there didn't quite hit it. Got underneath yesterday, though, didn't we? Yeah, we did, and we had less volume. Now, it's an ugly candle, right? It's a little doji, which are under, over, a little bit more volume. This is not a 2-bar. It's just an under, over, and it's at a place that you would expect to support. So that may be a little bit of a signal that you may get a little bump up tomorrow. No guarantees, but potentially a bump higher. And let's see what else we got here. Let's look at the weekly and see how that's doing while we're here. So the weekly is under so far and back into the swing point highs. Now remember, we're doing bullish and bearish retest regenerates. So we're essentially stuck between those two until one side or the other figures out who the winner is going to be. If you go back and you do the bearish one, it's this one. If you do the bullish one, it's from about 34, which would be somewhere in here, down to about 20. Oh, and that's interesting. So 20, yeah, it's just right at the bottoms of these. So far they're holding it. But, I mean, they are testing and testing, right? And it's a full retest after more than 6 bars, which is typically not what you expect. And so at this point, the tendency here is to say, oh well, this thing's being weaker than it should, and when you're down here building out to try to go lower, right? You're going to try to break, and it may do that, but right now so far it's held, did a little under over today. You might get a little pop up tomorrow. Maybe BOE is going to unleash some more QE or something. I'm not sure, but this seems to be just on the surface a positive, not a negative. If we go to the NASDAQ NDX, there are definitely positives there in terms of how they're holding. Today, not so much a positive though, because you get a mixed signal now. You get an over, back, under, inside, right? So you're still doing inside. So we're basically inside this big range bar. Well, actually, that's not true on this one. It was on the SPX. You're actually inside this big range bar, and we're talking about this bar here. So you're 2 days inside of it, staying inside of it, a little hanging man after an over-under. That's not a bullish scenario. Let's look at the NDX, see what that one looks like, and essentially you have the same thing. So the NDX, the IXIC, the NASDAQ look the same. Now the Russell is the one I've been focused on. The Russell, now we have the big day down, right? Then you have a big bump, but then you close under it yesterday, under the low, excuse me, not the low, but under the close the prior day. That low, it still closed over, it was 1211. Now today you're underneath it, I think, 1211.59. Yeah, just underneath it and underneath yesterday. So today, even though it's lighter volume, that's a bearish hanging man again, or kind of a doji here, but at a lower low. So this is not positive. So we have three out of the four not positive. When we're slicing and dicing this stuff. Let's look at the sectors. Let me see what the sectors look like, because I know we're starting to break down on some of these. And what I mean by break down is we're breaking through the bullish retest regenerates. So I'm going to pop all these up and walk through them real quick and see what the sectors look like. So the IBB tried to be strong today. That's a failure over that bar into this one. So the problem here, of course, is that you bang up into this big breakdown bar. You get into his low, and it looks like actually you close into it. Let's see, 285.32. Yeah, closes barely into it. If you can stay there another bar or so, you can get a push back into that a little bit deeper. The key area on this, these are your two key bars. Your key area is right there. If you can get over that price point, you can see it tried to do it and failed twice now, right? That's that price point. It tried to go into here, tried to go into there. Neither one of them was able to get over it. If you get over it, you go back to the highs. And so that's really the test here. So if you're looking at IBB, you want to invest in IBB, you want to see this area cleared. Now, you can wrap a trading plan around that. I mean, maybe you buy it on a dip into this tomorrow and you put a stop just up underneath it. That's kind of risky, but you could probably push to a 30-minute chart. These ideas apply on all chart time frames. So you could probably find a trade in this. You don't have volume at the top. It actually had volume, but then it went over and under. So I don't know that this is a great trade, but you can always construct trades and see if the risk reward makes sense. This one's still struggling to get over that key spot. Let's look at the ITB. So the ITB, what do we got there? Another little doji at the bottom. This one's still doing a bullish retest regenerate off this bar. So as long as it keeps doing that, that's fine. You did break two of these, so when they come back, that's your bearish retest regen. You hadn't been able to get back up into that so far. ITB, let's look at the IYR. See what that one looks like. And that one's just as bad or worse. And we don't even have a swing point high. This one was so strong. If you pull this over on the weekly, your swing points are way back here. So probably actually have a little swing point here on the daily in this area. So it's testing back into the daily swing point. You just can't quite see it's off the map here. And testing it with volume. So that one may actually give it up. This is a decent sell-off at this point. That's $5 on 84. That's what, 6% or so. It's a pretty good move. And why I say that is you can actually find some buyers. Transport's getting under over on a doji. That could be a turn. So that doesn't look bad. Let's look at the SOX. SOX is holding pretty well, and the SOX has been strong as a result of what's happening with the Nasdaq in general. XLB, let's see what that one looks like. Now, dollar has been a little bit stronger. That's been put pressure on them. This is an inside bar, but this one has easily given up already its bullish retest region, which is here, right? So this, when you see this, why do we watch this? If you get above, right, you break above something, what you really want to do is you want to see it hold that on the way back. That's where the buyers should show up. And typically, you end up getting swing point lows in those areas. But when you break them, right, there's usually a lot of stops sitting at that area once you have a range, and it pushes it hard, and that's what it did, and it actually broke through it. Now, on the way back, those are going to be resistance instead of support, and so that one does not look bullish, the XLB. Let's look at the XLE, and this one has been getting sold pretty hard, and if we look at it, it has also given up the bullish retest region. And so what that means in layman's terms, right, when you give up a bullish retest region, what it means is that you're going to end up seeing swing point lows try to get broken. And what happens? Today it breaks it, right? It's kind of a warning sign. It's a warning sign that what used to be up is probably this way. If it ain't that way yet, it's about to be, and today it is. Volume continues to expand. This is getting enough of a move down to where you're probably going to get a bounce. That's about a $4. What is the top? 72 down to 67, $5 on 72. I don't know. It's about 7.5% already. It's a pretty good move to the downside. So we got two sectors. Pretty. It may bounce, but they're bearish, or I should say they're no longer bullish. XLI has also given up the swing point high. So that's also telling us that the trend has changed, or is likely to. XLK, excuse me, that was XLF. I'm sorry, I was looking at XLF. XLF actually has gotten under it right there. That's the swing point high, and there's your trend change right there. So again, it's a warning sign when you get under it. It's a trend change when you actually break a swing point low. Here's the XLI. Now that one had lost it. Let's see here. It hasn't actually came back into a swing point high yet. This one was so strong it hasn't came back, but it has broken swing point lows, and you're bearish. And if we, makes me think of something else. Let's go over here and look at the current trends. Pull this up and see what they look like. So if we look at the current trends, we are bearish all but two now. And then we have energy. Well, that looks wrong. Oh, it just changed. It changed today. So that one has transitioned as well. So we've got enough damage here that we're probably going to see some sort of an attempt to mitigate that damage, probably. In other words, some sort of a bounce that sticks for a little bit as this thing continues down. Because typically once you change these, you get a little bounce. But you haven't, and the thing will be, I've talked about this before, is the way you read this thing is you go from this time frame to that time frame and so forth. So if you stay bad long enough here, it will start to affect these. And what you try to do is you try to say, okay, when I see a couple of these start to turn, and then I expect, 2 or 3 of them turn, I expect the rest of them to turn. And that's exactly what happened over here. You got 2 or 3, and then boom, they all go. That's the same here, right, on the indexes. The other way you look at this is that stocks themselves, and if you think about the stocks down in a pool down here somewhere, stocks move sectors, sectors move markets. So typically, either these two will move together, or this one will precede that one. And what you can see here is that these have gone bearish mostly, whereas only the IWM or the S&P, has done it. Everything else is still sideways. And so if this stays a little bit longer, you can expect these probably to get weaker. Okay, I'm not going to walk through the rest of these. I've seen enough sectors to tell me that they did not hold up in general. That also is a negative, or starting to be a negative. Let's look at the world markets. And then finally, let's look at the currencies. I want to look at Europe in particular. Europe is the one that is most interesting to me. Asia is having a tough time. I'm going to look at Shanghai before we go to Europe. Out of curiosity, a little doji, less volume. Shanghai should try and bounce tonight. Let's go to Switzerland and see what Switzerland's still doing. Still holding that higher ground. A little bit more volume today. Okay, so now Switzerland, just like we were talking about with the U.S., Switzerland gets over swing point high. You do an immediate retest, you fail. You do another one, you fail that one. In other words, you're not doing bullish retest regions. You're failing them. That says that this thing's going to go sideways at best, most likely on this time frame. If we look on the weekly, still holding. You really want to see, if you want to be bullish, this index, right, in Europe, because I like the way this one's trading as a tell. You really want to see it hold this area and try to regenerate to the top side. So a week ago it looked pretty good. Then Draghi came out, did his thing, and everything kind of went to pot. Let's see what Germany looks like. Now, Germany had been one of the weaker ones. Germany's been picking it up, though. But Germany's under that low, staying under it. It's 3 bars now. This one's going to try to drive deeper into the swing point high. So your swing point high just happens to be on here one more day. It's in this area about 11. What is that? About 11.3, 1. I don't know. 11 here. Let's just get the numbers. 10.30.40 down to 10.01. About a 200-point range. Swing point low anchors the bottom of that, which many times is what you'll see. So it's going to try and get back in there. It hit it here, hit it with more volume. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back in and try to do it again. If Europe is weak, typically that doesn't help the U.S. to be strong. So we'll have to pay attention to it tomorrow and see what it looks like. Got breaks of swing point lows on the CACs. So I don't see overseas markets helping the U.S. market. Finally, let's go to the UUP. I want to look at the currencies real quick. So volume's just tailing off. There's no volume here. And this is stuck. This is trapped inside these big breakdown bars. I don't see this one being able to lift much. Let me see what the FXE looks like. And what do we got here? Same thing. I don't see any good tails there. This one's just trapped in this big range. And let me finally, I want to see Japan, because BOJ is next week. And I believe Japan is going to be the key next week. Let's pull over the monthly. All right, it still cannot get over it. This is pretty amazing. All right, so even with all the nonsense that's going on in Japan and the inability to stimulate and kill their currency, this currency so far has only done a full retest and trying to regenerate back to the downside. So in other words, the dollar would get stronger, the yen would get weaker. If the yen gets weaker, the Asian market, the Tokyo market, the Nikkei will try to get stronger. And so far, this is holding. Next week, with the BOJ doing whatever it's going to do, it's probably going to be the make or break one way or the other, right? And we're either going to get another push to the downside, or we're going to surprise everybody and push to the upside. And if we do that, I think you're going to see repercussions elsewhere. So in other words, you get over this swing point high, you break through the bearish retest region. If you can do that, if you get up here, that is going to have repercussions around the globe because the Japanese market, what that would say is that the ammunition that central bank has just ain't working, or they're unwilling to pull the trigger anymore. And if that's true and this thing starts to rock back to the upside, you're going to see some definite shifts in what people are doing with large amounts of money. They can't sit there because they're going to start losing on their bets. Let's take a look at gold. Gold's been struggling. Gold inside day doesn't tell me anything. Let's see silver, see if there's anything on it. And then we'll quickly take a peek at the oil market. Silver just looks like it wants to go down again. I'll look at OIL and then I'll look at USO, the two ETFs. It's almost back into swing point lows on this one, and the same there. Oil coming down with some volume. If you're going to be bullish oil, you better see somebody walk into this thing pretty soon, or this one's going to continue to cause problems too. I can't be that optimistic with what I see here. It looks to me like we're probably going to get some more pressure to the downside tomorrow. If the BOJ, and not the BOJ, but if the BOE does something, the only thing I see that looks interesting is the currencies. It looks like the dollar wants to try and push higher. Actually, I did not look at the, where is it? The British pound. Let me see what that looks like. Just range trade. Really nothing there. Just range trades. So I don't think that tells me anything. So I suspect BOE doesn't do anything tomorrow. Looks like we're going to try to pressure again. They've tried to break it 3 days in a row. If they can't break it, they're going to bounce it. I would, if I had to estimate it, I'd say they got another day at best here. Maybe, probably another day. Tomorrow's Thursday. If they can't break it by tomorrow, this market's probably going to turn around and bounce, and you'll see some sort of structure tomorrow to suggest that. Have yourself a great night. Take care, and I'll see you next time.